Okay, the next step of this assignment, you have to have one of your designs selected that you have shaded in, and when you colored with pencil, remember that was representing all the areas that we're carving away from the rubber, so that the white shapes are what's the highest area that's going to receive the ink that's going to make the print. So now we're ready to transfer this design onto your piece of rubber. So you're going to get another piece of tracing paper that is 4 by 6 inches, is close to the same size as your rectangle. It's okay if it's short or long a little bit. But do the best that you can to hold that down in the center. And now what you're going to be drawing is the contour lines, or just the outside edges of your lines, the shapes that you drew. And you want to press hard when you do this and use a regular pencil, not a mechanical pencil. Okay, when you finish this, what we're going to be doing is printing this drawing onto your piece of rubber. Alright, when you have that finished, remember that to make a print you have to turn your tracing paper over backwards to get it to print. So you're going to get your piece of rubber, and you only get one piece. I do not have extras for you to get more than one. So you're going to turn it over. You're going to try to center that, and then you're going to print this. So remember that you're going to draw right over the top of the pencil lines, and when you lift up your tracing paper, it should have a print of your pattern. So when you take your tracing paper off, you're going to see that it did make a print. It's copied on that rubber, and you can see the design from here. So now what you're going to do is you're going to look at your rough draft drawing, and now you're going to use a Sharpie marker, and you are going to outline over the top of your pencil, because the pencil is going to smudge off. So we're going to do this in Sharpie so that the pencil doesn't smudge off before you can get this carved. Okay, when I finish this, now what I'm going to do is give myself a visual guide to remember what pieces I'm carving away and what pieces I need to keep. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to shade in, like I did on my rough draft here, all the pieces that I'm going to carve away. And it's okay if it's not shaded in perfectly. You can see that I'm just kind of roughly coloring this in. Just enough so I know exactly what I'm carving. Doesn't have to look perfect because you're going to be removing these pieces anyways. And the reason we're doing this is because as you start carving, you're going to forget which spots stay high, which spots need to be carved out that are low. As you're talking with friends, as we're listening to music, the more days you work on this, you're just going to get distracted and forget which pieces stay and which pieces, get carved out. So that's why we're coloring this in with Sharpie. So it's permanent and we remember what goes and what stays. Okay. Now we're ready to start to do the carving. So, if you look at your desk, remember that your desk had a number in the corner, and that matches the assigned number of the carving tool you're going to work with. So this carving tool is called a gouger or a gouging tool, and you have to have this metal bench hook. It's bent on both sides, so it catches on the corner of the desk here. So you're going to put that right along the bottom of your desk. Then you're going to put your piece of rubber up high on this metal platform so it's touching this back wall. That's what's going to keep your rubber from sliding as you do the carving. Okay, so this is called a gouging tool, and this is what we use to carve and remove the rubber to make our stamp. So the end of this is really sharp enough to cut out the rubber. So when we're using this tool, the best way to stay safe, number one, we never ever carve towards your fingers. If you are holding on to your stamp like this and you're trying to cut away pieces like this, then your gouging tool can slip and go right into your hand or your thumb. So that is why we use a bench hook. The bench hook allows you to keep that stamp pressed up against here so it doesn't move. The hand not carving can be off to the side or behind the gouging tool so that as you're carving you don't hit your fingers. So you always want to be pushing down and forward. You never want to be carving to the side, because if you slip, you're going to hit your fingers this way. You never want your gouging tool facing you so that you're pushing towards your body, because if you slip, you're going to hit your body. You always push down and forward, kind of like you're scooping down and forward. So the gouging tool has two different size blades, and you'll just have to figure out if you have the big blade or the small blade inside your tool. So your tool has a number on it that's going to match the number on your desk. So if you sit at desk 25, you use the number 25 tool. Then inside the bottom handle, if you twist this and take this out, there's another blade inside of here. So one is big and one is small. Now you can see that just by me handling the blade, I'm not cutting myself. But if I were to really grab that blade hard, yeah, I might cut myself. But just normal hand pressure, it's not going to hurt me. So the pointed side, the sharp side, is the carving side. The round side is how you switch it out from your handle. So these blades are meant to come out. So I'm going to unscrew this. Just loosen it a little bit until this pops out. So I have to unscrew a little more. There it goes. Okay, so you can see it's rounded, and the round side is what goes into the handle. So when we take this apart entirely, this is what your tool looks like. So you shouldn't be unscrewing it enough that it separates, just enough to loosen the blade. But you're going to see there's a little silver piece on the inside that has a round ball down there, and when you loosen it, you'll be able to see the gaps in the metal pieces. This round section goes right in between the ball and the other silver piece, and you have to loosen it enough to where it can slide in there, and then you have to tighten it. And then your other blade you can just store in the handle, the one you're not using. So that's how you can switch in and out the blades. So what I like to do to start with is to use my small blade first, and I like to do all the carving around the outside edge of my shape. So what I'm going to do is figure out the method that works best for you. Sometimes I like to hold this like a pencil to do the carving. Sometimes I like to wrap my hand all the way around the top, and then I can really dig at it and push with my full fist. But you just kind of have to figure out your preferred method. So what I'm going to be doing is angling the blade down, pushing it forward, and then I'm going to scoop or dig a little bit out. And this is kind of a slow process until you figure out the right amount of pressure. Now, this curved line is going to get a little bit tricky, because remember, I don't want to ever have my blade going towards my fingers. So when I need to start carving to the left, I have to turn my piece of rubber so that I'm always pushing the blade straight forward. And as best as I can, I want to carve right along the edge of my shape. And you have to go deep enough that you're going to remove a chunk of rubber. But look how thick this is. In general, you should never be carving more than half of that thickness away. So I'm going to turn this blade, and I'm going to continue to carve around this edge. So I'm going to start like that with all my shapes, where I am working on the outlines first. And now I might jump over here, dig that piece out. Okay. Then you might decide that you're ready to switch to your big blade for big areas. So I'm going to unscrew this until it's loose, pull this one out, get the round side and stick that one in. Make it nice and tight so it doesn't wiggle around. And then I don't want to lose my other blade, so I'm going to put that back in my handle. Okay, so the bigger blade is for removing large areas. So with these big black areas that we just covered with Sharpie, now I might switch out my blade and start really carving away the big wide sections. So you can see how the bigger blade is going to go a little faster. Now if you feel like you can be precise and just use a big blade around the edge, then do that. But you only get one piece of rubber. So if you make a mistake, you're going to have to live with that mistake and just deal with it. So you have to be careful, go slow. So this is a really slow process of carving and removing all the little rubber pieces that are shaded in with your Sharpie marker. Okay, so let's talk about what happens if you accidentally cut yourself. So if you are not paying attention to where your hand is and you accidentally cut your finger, you're going to bleed. First thing you want to do is stop what you're doing, set down your supplies, grab that finger that's cut or your hand and squeeze that as hard as you can. That's going to start to stop the flow of blood. Tell somebody you're bleeding, whether you can tell me or a friend next to you and that friend tells me, and then go to the sink immediately. At the sink, you need to wash that cut, use soap and water to wash it, squeeze it tight with paper towel, and then hopefully by that point I'll know you're bleeding. I'll come look at your cut, see how bad it is, and give you a Band-Aid. If I think it's really bad, then I will just send you to the nurse. If blood is on the table or the tools, we need to know that because we have to sanitize that and clean that. So just make sure that if you're bleeding, you tell somebody and don't hide the fact that you hurt yourself. So be careful, pay attention to where your hand placement is located. All right, so we're going to proceed this way until all those low pieces have been removed. At the end of class, when we clean up, each table is going to have that gray trash can, and what you're going to do is get all your rubber pieces in one pile. You can pile it up on your bench hook if you want. Makes it easy to carry. Then what you can do is pick your bench hook up and just dump that in your trash can. So this is to collect all your trash. Then you need to have your carving tool and your bench hook resting at your seat so I can check that you still have a blade in the handle, and I'll shake it. So make sure you still have a blade inside and a blade ready to carve with. Then you are going to be keeping all your pieces to this assignment in your art folder. Don't throw those away yet. Hold on to those. And then your stamp, what you can do is write your name on the back. And then we'll just be collecting stamps, putting those on top of your art folders, and we'll continue this the next time we have art class to finish carving away the rest of your design.